Today is your big day. You are at the closing office and you are signing away the final documentation of owning your new home. You sign off on the papers, you get your keys, and you are at the front door of your new life in your new home. And as you open the front door, you are in complete shock to find out that the chandelier is gone. And not only the chandelier, you make your way into your new living room and find that all the draperies have been removed. And then you head off into your backyard on your patio and find that all those beautiful potted plants are also gone. And so in complete dismay, you call up the seller and ask, what happened to all these items? And the seller says, because they weren't fixtures, they were not part of the deal by default. Is that true? What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Simran Saini with Century 21, your local real estate agent. And for this video's topic, I'll be talking about fixtures. Now, fixtures are a hot point of conflict due to the nature of how we interpret personal and real property. By definition, a fixture is a movable piece of personal property that has been converted to real property by the means of some attachment method like bolts, nails, screws, cement, glue, etc. Now, even by that definition, it's still open to interpretation of what is real property, personal property, or a legitimate attachment method. What constitutes bolting, screwing, or gluing? Well, to address these concerns, a real estate purchase contract should actually have dedicated sections for what is included in the sale and what isn't by default. So for example, a real estate purchase contract may include by default items like plumbing, heating, air conditioning fixtures, bathroom fixtures, all window coverings, including curtains, draperies, rods, window blinds and shutters, storm doors and windows, awnings, satellite dishes, cooktops, and dishwashers. And there is also an option to include things like washers, dryers, refrigerators, and microwave ovens. Now notice that those last four are not like the other items that I mentioned in that they aren't fixed to the property. And so that is why that section is in there to help discern whether those things are included by default or not. And of course, there should be a section that is there for the seller to fill out to include items that they want to include or exclude from the sale specifically. And so a good rule of thumb to avoid these kinds of conflicts is the simple saying of, if in doubt, write it out. So if you are doubtful if something will be included in the sale or not included in the sale by default, make it very clear in the contract whether or not the seller intends to include the following items with the home. Now, of course, keep in mind that the items I just said that are included with the home are specific to the contract that I was reading off of. So be sure that the contract you are using has a section that clearly outlines what is included with the home. Another helpful acronym to remember to help mitigate these discrepancies is the acronym MARIA. The M stands for Method of Attachment. As was stated in the definition of what a fixture is, if an item is permanently attached to the structure, it is considered real property and is included with the home. Now, if the item can be removed from the structure without causing damage to the structure, it might be considered personal property and therefore excluded from the sale. So by that definition, in our little scenario, the draperies would actually be excluded from the sale because they can be easily removed from the rods without causing damage to the rods or the hooks that are hanging on the wall. Now, of course, if you were to use the contract that I was reading off of, draperies was explicitly included in the included items section, and so by default they would be included with the home, which is why it is so important to pay attention to the included items section of the contract that you choose to use. The A stands for Adaptability to Property Use. So if you were to take a piece of personal property and build it into the home, that is a fixture and is included with the sale of the home. Now, another scenario is if you have an item that is placed in a specific spot where the surrounding elements help to, and again, of course it can be argued if something is or isn't a fixture if it's placed in a certain spot, or you can debate if the surrounding elements are really there to enhance the item's performance or not, which is why, again, I said to make it very clear what is and isn't included with the sale. R stands for relationship of the parties. Now, generally, if the buyer and seller were to take it to court on whether or not something is a fixture, the court may tend to favor the buyer over the seller. Now, of course, I'm not a lawyer, and so if you have any questions about who may win out in that scenario, you should definitely talk to your lawyer. The I stands for intent of the seller. If in the sales contract it is not clear whether the item in question is a fixture or not, then the intent of the seller becomes really important. So what does intent look like? Well, an example of the intent may be in the advertisement of the property. So if a marketing piece such as the MLS description or a flyer or other piece has a statement that says that the property has an amazing, beautiful kitchen with the latest appliances, or the backyard has an above-ground swimming pool, well, both the swimming pool and the latest appliances can be interpreted as part of the sale. Just by the way that the statement was worded, it makes it seem like the seller is intending to include those items. And that is a good lesson on not to overinflate or oversell beyond what you intend to sell with the home. And the last A stands for agreement of the parties. Like I said, if there is any doubt, you should write it out. If there's any doubt whether or not something is a fixture, you should always include it and make it clear in the contract that you're using if the intention is to include that item in the sale of the home. And those are the basics of fixtures. I hope you found that information helpful. Oh yeah, and by the way, that chandelier, that's a fixture because it's chained or screwed into the ceiling. But those potted rose bushes in the backyard, those are not fixtures, because had they been planted in the ground, the roots would be considered fixing them to the property and therefore would be included with the sale. But since they were potted, they are not fixtures, and so the seller actually can remove them and did remove them from the property. But they would have to awkwardly return that chandelier. If you guys have any questions on real estate related topics, please don't hesitate to give me a call, text, email. Until next time, see ya.